Welcome to Speak English Corner, a calm space where we slow down, listen deeply, and explore stories that remind us how to live with peace, growth, and purpose. Today's episode is called Change Your Mindset, Change Your Life. It's a gentle reminder that sometimes you don't need to change your whole world. You just need to change the way you see it. Every morning, before the world even touches you, your thoughts begin to shape your day. The first few moments after you wake up, what do you say to yourself? Do you whisper something kind or something heavy? Do you greet the day with possibility or with worry? It may seem small, but those quiet thoughts, they hold incredible power. Because your mindset isn't just the way you think about life, it's the way you experience it. If your mind believes the world is hard and cruel, you'll find proof of it everywhere. If your heart believes growth is possible, you'll start to see opportunities where you once saw walls. The world you see is often a reflection of the world within you. We often spend so much time trying to fix everything outside of us, our jobs, our relationships, our circumstances. But real change rarely begins on the outside. It begins in the quiet corners of your mind. It begins the moment you decide to believe something different. The moment you say, "I am not stuck. I'm just learning. I am not behind. I'm growing at my own pace. I am not lost. I'm being redirected." Those thoughts might sound simple, but they carry the weight of transformation, because every belief you hold is like a seed you plant, and the more you nurture it, the stronger it grows. If you plant seeds of fear, you'll harvest hesitation. If you plant seeds of gratitude, you'll grow peace. If you plant seeds of possibility, you'll start to see the path open ahead of you. Changing your mindset doesn't mean ignoring your pain or pretending everything's perfect. It means learning to choose a perspective that gives you power, not pressure. It's not about controlling every thought, but about becoming aware enough to say, "This one helps me, and this one doesn't." Because awareness is the first step toward freedom. When you start to change the way you think, life begins to respond differently. Not because the world outside has shifted overnight, but because you have. You start to walk lighter, see clearer, and trust deeper. And little by little you begin to realize the life you've been waiting for wasn't somewhere far away. It was waiting inside the way you choose to see it. Have you ever noticed how two people can live through the same situation and yet see it completely differently? One person might see a problem, the other a possibility. One might see a dead end, the other a doorway. The difference isn't what happened. It's how they see what happened. Because the truth is, your mind doesn't just observe life, it creates it. Your thoughts are like the lens through which you view the world. If the lens is clouded with fear, everything you see feels uncertain. If it's covered in comparison, everything feels like a competition. But if it's clear, if it's grounded in gratitude, curiosity, and hope, you start to see the same world, just in softer, kinder light. The world outside may not change overnight, but the way you move through it will. Our brains are storytellers. They're constantly trying to make sense of what we see and feel. And the story you tell yourself every day becomes the reality you live inside. If your story says, "I always fail," your brain will quietly collect every memory to prove that's true. But if you change the story to, "I'm still learning," your brain starts noticing every small improvement, every tiny step forward, and slowly, that story becomes your truth instead. That's how powerful your mind is. It's not just reacting to the world, it's shaping it. I once met someone who told me they used to think they were unlucky. Everything that went wrong, they took as proof that life was against them. One day they decided to test a different mindset. For a week they told themselves, "I'm learning to see blessings, not burdens." They didn't change their job or their city or even their daily routine. They only changed their focus. At first it felt awkward, almost forced. But after a few days they started noticing small things. A stranger holding the door, a coworker offering help, a morning coffee that tasted especially good, and little by little, the world began to feel lighter. Not because life had changed, but because their eyes had. That's the quiet magic of mindset. It turns ordinary days into opportunities. The same rain that ruins one person's plans helps another person's garden grow. The same delay that frustrates one traveler gives another the chance to rest. Your mind is constantly translating life, and you are the author of that translation. When you think, "This is too hard," your body tightens, your energy closes. But when you think, "This is challenging, but I can learn from it," your whole system softens. You breathe easier. You begin to see solutions. Change starts in that tiny shift, and not outside, but inside. It's easy to underestimate this. We think thoughts are invisible, intangible, so they must not matter much. But thoughts are powerful energy. They become your tone, your words, your decisions. They shape how you treat others and how you treat yourself. You can't control every event in your life, but you can choose the meaning you give it, and that meaning, that quiet interpretation, becomes your world. Maybe you've had days when your mind felt heavy, when every thought pulled you down, when you saw only what was missing, not what was present. It's okay. We all have those days. But remember, you don't have to believe every thought that appears. You can pause, take a breath, and ask, "Is this thought helping me grow or holding me back?" That question alone can open a door. A small one maybe, but enough for light to enter. Because the moment you become aware of your thoughts, you begin to take your power back. And maybe that's the simplest truth of all. Your mindset is not fixed. It's flexible, alive, trainable. Every day, you're shaping it through what you choose to focus on. When you feed it with gratitude, it becomes calmer. When you challenge old beliefs, it becomes stronger. When you practice hope, it becomes freer. The more you choose thoughts that support you, the more your life begins to align with peace, purpose, and possibility. Because when your mind changes, everything changes. We all carry stories, not just the ones we tell others, but the quiet ones we whisper to ourselves when no one's listening. Stories about who we are, what we deserve, and what we believe is possible. And the truth is, Those stories shape our lives far more than we realize. I once met a girl named Anna. She loved painting, but she never showed anyone her work. When I asked her why, she smiled shyly and said, "I'm not really an artist. I just paint sometimes." But when she showed me her sketchbook, I saw pages filled with beauty, tiny details, warm colors, emotions that spoke louder than words. Still, every time she looked at her own work, she said the same thing: "It's not good enough." For years, that sentence became her story, one she told herself over and over until she believed it completely. Her art didn't disappear. Her talent didn't fade. But her confidence did, buried beneath the story that she wasn't enough. We often do this without noticing. We write silent scripts in our minds and live as though they were true. I'm always the one who gets left behind. I'm not brave enough. I'm just unlucky. I'll never be like them. Each of these sentences becomes a wall, not made of bricks, but of beliefs. And the more we repeat them, the taller that wall grows. But what if those stories aren't facts? They're just versions of truth we accepted once, without realizing we could change the ending? There's a story I love about two seeds lying side by side in the soil. One seed says, "I'm afraid to grow. What if the sun burns me? What if the rain drowns me? It's safer to stay underground." The other seed says, "I don't know what will happen, but I want to see the light." Weeks later, the first seed remains buried in the dark, safe but still. The second seed stretches upward, breaks through the soil, and begins to bloom. Both seeds had the same potential, the same earth, the same sun, the same rain. The only difference was the story they told themselves. Our stories can limit us, but they can also liberate us. Because every time you say, "I can't," your mind shuts the door. But when you say, "I'm learning," you leave it open. You might not believe it fully at first, and that's okay. Changing your story doesn't mean forcing fake positivity. It means allowing a new possibility to exist. Maybe instead of, "I'm not confident," you start saying, "I'm learning to trust myself." Instead of, "I'm always behind," you whisper, "I'm moving at my own pace." Instead of, "I always fail," you say, "I'm still growing." Each new story is a small light, and when you collect enough of them, your world starts to glow differently. We're not always aware of how deeply these inner stories affect us. They influence what we notice, who we connect with, and even what we allow ourselves to dream about. If you believe you're unworthy, you'll reject opportunities before they even arrive. If you believe you're capable, you'll walk toward them with quiet confidence. It's not the world that limits you. It's the story that says you can't go further. But here's the beautiful thing. You can rewrite it anytime. You don't need to wait for a new chapter or a fresh start. All you need is a new sentence, one that begins with kindness, with courage, with the belief that your past doesn't define your future. So maybe today, you can take a moment to ask yourself, what story have I been telling myself lately? And does it still serve the person I'm becoming? Because if it doesn't, you don't have to keep reading it. You can put the old story down and begin a new one. It might start small, like a single line in a blank journal. I am enough. I am learning. I am worthy of peace. Write it gently. Say it softly. Believe it slowly. And watch how life begins to respond differently. Because when you change the story inside, the world outside begins to change too. Your energy shifts. Your choices shift. Your life unfolds with a different rhythm, one that feels lighter, freer, and more alive. So tell yourself a better story. Not a perfect one, just one that lets you breathe again. Change doesn't begin with shouting new affirmations or pretending everything's fine. It begins quietly, in awareness, because before you can change the way you think, you need to see the way you think. First, notice the pattern. Every mindset starts as a pattern. A path your thoughts have walked so many times that it now feels automatic. So begin here. Start noticing what your mind repeats most often. When something goes wrong, do you tell yourself, I knew I'd fail? When someone compliments you, do you immediately think, they're just being polite? These are not facts. They're habits of thought. They're echoes of the past that your brain has learned to replay, and the moment you notice them, you've already begun to break their power, because awareness is the first form of freedom. Second, question the thought. Your mind loves to believe it's always right, but not every thought you think is true. Some are just old voices wearing new clothes. So when a thought appears, pause and ask gently, is this thought helping me grow or keeping me small? If it's a thought like, I always mess things up, ask yourself, is that always true? Haven't there been times you succeeded even in small ways? Your mind might resist at first. It might say, but this is who I am. That's okay. You're not trying to fight your thoughts. You're trying to understand them. Because once you question a thought, it loses its certainty. And when it loses certainty, you gain choice. Third, replace guilt with growth. Most of us are kind to others, but cruel to ourselves. We forgive everyone else's mistakes, but punish ourselves for not being perfect. To rewire your mindset, you have to replace that guilt with growth. When you make a mistake, don't say, I failed again. Say, I learned something today. When you feel stuck, don't say, I can't do this. Say, this is where I'm still growing. Each gentle reframe is like a new road in your mind. The more you walk it, the stronger it becomes, and slowly, your inner voice shifts from a critic to a coach. Fourth, choose what you feed your mind. Your thoughts are seeds, but your environment is the soil. So notice what you feed your mind every day. The conversations you have, the content you consume, the stories you listen to, including the ones you tell yourself. If your world is filled with negativity, you'll start to think in its language. But if you surround yourself with growth, books, people, podcasts, quiet moments of reflection, your mind begins to expand in that direction too. It's not about avoiding difficulty, but about balancing it with nourishment. Think of it this way. You can't stop the rain, but you can build roots strong enough to grow through it. Fifth, practice gratitude as a mental reset. Gratitude is one of the simplest and most powerful ways to rewire your brain, because gratitude shifts your focus from what's missing to what's already here. Each time you say, "Thank you," you're telling your brain, "There's enough. I'm enough." And slowly, your nervous system begins to calm, your thoughts become softer, and life starts to feel a little lighter. Try this. Before you sleep, whisper 3 things you're grateful for. They don't have to be big: a warm cup of tea, a quiet moment, a kind word. The point isn't to create perfection. It's to train your mind to see light, even when it's dim. Sixth, be patient. Rewiring takes time. Changing your mindset isn't a one-time act. It's a practice, a gentle, ongoing process. At first, your old thoughts will still appear. They'll try to pull you back into the same stories, but now you'll see them clearly. You'll pause. You'll breathe. You'll choose differently, and that's the work, the quiet, brave, invisible work of transformation. Every time you choose kindness over criticism, awareness over reaction, growth over guilt, you're rewiring your mind. You might not see the results right away, but they're happening beneath the surface, where real change always begins. So take it slow. There's no rush to become someone new. You're not broken. You're just growing. Each thought you challenge, each belief you soften, each moment you forgive yourself, it all counts. Because you're not here to think perfectly. You're here to think consciously, and the more aware you become, the freer you'll feel. To live, to love, and to be fully yourself. There's something quiet and freeing that happens the moment you realize you are not your thoughts. You have thoughts. You experience them, but you are not defined by them, because your thoughts are just visitors. Some gentle, some loud, some passing through, some staying longer than they should. But they are not you. Every day, thousands of thoughts move through your mind. Some lift you up. Some weigh you down. Some make you smile. Some whisper old fears. And for so long, you might have believed that every thought that appeared was a truth you had to obey. When your mind said, "You're not enough," you believed it. When it said, "You'll fail again," you hesitated. When it said, "Everyone else is doing better," you shrank a little inside. But what if you could step back, just for a moment, and see those thoughts for what they really are? Not facts, not fate. Just words, passing clouds in the sky of your mind. Your thoughts are stories, and stories change. You've had beliefs that no longer fit you. You've outgrown opinions you once held tightly, and that's proof that you are something deeper, something greater, something beyond the mind. You are the awareness that notices the thought, the witness who says, "I see you, but you don't define me." That simple moment of awareness is the first step toward peace. Think of it this way. Your mind is like a river. Thoughts flow through it all day long. Some waters are calm, some are turbulent, some carry debris from the past. You can't stop the river, but you can learn to stand on the bank and watch it flow instead of jumping in and getting swept away. When a thought like, "I'm not good enough," drifts by, you can notice it without drowning in it. You can simply say, "Oh, there's that old story again," and let it keep moving downstream. The river doesn't define you. The observer does. Once you see this clearly, you begin to find space between you and your thoughts. And in that space, you discover choice. You can choose which thoughts to water and which ones to let dry out. You can choose which voices to listen to and which ones to release with kindness, because not every thought deserves your energy. Not every story deserves your belief. One of the most powerful things you can practice is gentle separation. When your mind says, "I can't do this," pause and add one simple phrase, "right now." I can't do this. Right now. That small addition changes everything. It turns a fixed belief into a moment in time. It tells your brain, this isn't forever. This is just what I feel today. And from that space, hope begins to breathe again. The more you practice noticing without judging, the quieter your mind becomes. Because the mind is like a child. It doesn't always need correction. It needs understanding. When you stop fighting your thoughts and start observing them with curiosity, they lose their grip on you. You realize that thoughts are not enemies. They are signals, tiny reflections of what your heart is trying to heal. A thought that says, "I'm not worthy," isn't meant to punish you. It's asking to be held, to be seen, to be replaced with something gentler. I am learning to see my worth. And maybe that's what true strength looks like. Not controlling every thought, but choosing peace in the middle of them. When you let go of the need to silence your mind, you make room to listen, to yourself, to life, to the quiet truth that you are more than anything you think, because you are not the storm. You are the sky that holds it. So the next time a harsh thought appears, you don't have to believe it. You can breathe. You can smile softly to yourself and say, "This is just a thought, and I am something far bigger." You are the awareness, the light behind the thinking. And that light, it doesn't fade. It doesn't break. It doesn't disappear when you forget. It's always there, steady, still, waiting for you to remember who you truly are, because you are not your thoughts. You are the one who can choose them. And that choice, that gentle act of awareness, is the beginning of freedom. Freedom doesn't begin when everything around you is perfect. It begins the moment you realize you can choose how to see it, because the mind, it's not a prison when you learn how to understand it. It's a garden, and every thought you plant has the power to shape the landscape of your life. When you plant fear, you live in limitation. When you plant gratitude, you live in peace. When you plant possibility, you begin to see doors where you once saw walls. That's the quiet miracle of mindset. It doesn't change what happens. It changes what it means to you. Every sunrise brings you another chance to think differently, to choose gently, to begin again. You don't need to wait for a new year. a big milestone, or a perfect moment. You just need a single breath of awareness, a soft pause where you whisper to yourself, I can see this differently. That small shift is where freedom begins, because when you change your mindset, you don't become someone else. You become more yourself. You become the version of you who sees lessons instead of losses, who finds calm in uncertainty, who forgives the past and opens their heart to what's still possible. The world outside might not slow down, but your heart will. Your thoughts will soften. And life will start to feel lighter, not because it got easier, but because you got clearer. There will still be hard days. There will still be doubts, moments of fear, times when your old thoughts knock on the door again. But now you'll know that you don't have to let them in. You can smile gently and say, I see you, but I choose peace today. That's not weakness. That's wisdom. That's strength. Because freedom isn't the absence of challenge when it's the presence of awareness. When your mind is free, you stop fighting life. You start flowing with it. You start listening more deeply, loving more quietly, and trusting more fully. And the more you trust your own mind to lead with clarity, the more life begins to reflect that back to you in kindness, in peace, in growth. So today, take one small moment to breathe and look around. Everything you see, every color, every sound, every feeling, and is touched by the way your mind interprets it. And when your mind becomes gentle, the world follows. Freedom doesn't come from changing everything. It comes from changing the way you see everything. Because once your mind learns to see through love, through gratitude, through possibility, then no matter where you are free.